Call this meeting to order. Seeing everyone present. Item 3, let's begin with a moment of reflection and respect. Thank you. Item 4, confirmation of the agenda. Josh?
That council confirms the agenda for the meeting of March 1st, 2023 as presented.
Mover in a second. Moved by Deputy Mayor Barber, seconded by Councillor Van Raes. All those in favor? Item 5, reminder of declaration of pecuniary interest. Councillor Van Raes.
In accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, I, William Van Raes, have a pecuniary interest with respect to our report 1623, which is the crosswalk service vendor. I therefore declare disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof as follows. I am the owner of Inclusive Communities Consulting. I do therefore agree not to take part in the discussion of or vote on any question in respect of the matter and shall not attempt in any way, whether before, during, or after the meeting, to influence the voting on any such question.
All right, thank you. And pass that on to the clerk, please.
Thank you.
When that item comes up, we will excuse you from council chambers. Next item is the delegations and public meetings. We have a public meeting under the Planning Act as a resolution for plan.
That council do now commence a public meeting at 7:02 p.m. to receive input from the public with respect to the Planning Evaluation Report application for zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 0523.
All right, mover and seconder, moved by Councillor Oslach, seconded by Councillor Rahi. All those in favor? Great, thank you. Next item is 6.11, I guess, 6.12. Need a resolution to item, you can read the resolution thing?
Yep. This public meeting is taking place under the Planning Act 1990 as amended. At this virtual public meeting, council will hear public representations regarding the Planning Evaluation Report application for zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 0523, made by Performance Communities Realty Incorporated, represented by Darren Lyle of Cyril J. DeMeyer Limited. Please note that those who do not provide comment or written submission prior to the decision of the appropriate authority may not be afforded the right to appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Council will hear comments in the following order: presentation of the staff report by the Manager of Planning and Development, agent or applicant, the public, and then finally staff and the clerk.
Very well. Great, thank you. Could the Manager of Planning and Development please provide the report?
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. We are gathered here this evening at this council meeting for a public meeting for the zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 05-22 for part of Lot 81 concession north of Talbot Road East, Town of Aylmer, for Performance Communities Realty Inc., care of Darren Lyle, Cyril J. DeMeyer Limited. The purpose and the effect of the application for the zoning bylaw amendment is to implement a proposed plan of subdivision and plan of condominium by rezoning the subject lands from residential holding RH, as shown on Schedule A, Map 4 in the town zoning bylaw, to the following zones. 1, residential type 2, special provision 20, R2-20, to permit semi-detached dwellings with special regulations, and this would be for lots 39 to 46 on the proposed draft plan of subdivision. Residential Type 3, Special Provision 11, R3-11, to permit single detached dwellings with special regulations. This is for lots 10 to 38, 47, 48, and 51 to 74. The third special zone, Residential Multiple Second Density, Special Provision 1, RM2-1, to permit row townhouse units with special use regulations. This would be located at lots 1 to 9, 49, 50, 75, 76. The next zone, Residential Multiple Second Density, Special Provision 2, RM2-2, to permit vacant land condominium townhouse units. This will be within Block 77 of the proposed draft plan of condominium. And lastly, Environmental Protection, EP Zone, to permit stormwater management area, an open space area, and a temporary turnaround area. This would consist of blocks 80, 82 to 83, and 88 and 89. The property is located just west of Willow Drive. It's shown in Figure 1 within the report. And on Figure 2 is the proposed zoning bylaw amendment schedule that was submitted by the agent for the file. Moving on to planning policy review. I reviewed the applicable policies that apply from the provincial policy. And I can state that the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is consistent with the provincial policy statement. Next, I reviewed the applicable policies that apply from the County of Elgin official plan. And I can conclude that the proposed zoning bylaw amendment conforms to the county's official plan. Next, the Town of Elmer official plan, reviewed the applicable policies. And I can also conclude that the proposed zoning bylaw amendment conforms to the town's official plan. Lastly, moving on to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. As I've mentioned, there's multiple zones being proposed for this development. That is to facilitate the various types of dwelling units that are proposed within the proposed subdivision as well as the proposed condominium. As well, these zones also have what I would call kind of special regulations, and in particular, a lot of times it's to reduce front yard setbacks or exterior side yard setbacks on corner lots, to allow for an increase in lot coverage as well as an increase in deck encroachment. Various different special regulations within all of these zones that I've included within the report. The application was circulated internally and to all applicable commenting agencies. Comment was received from Catfish Creek Conservation Authority. This comment was received at the time of preparation of this report. Essentially, they're commenting that the stormwater management pond treatment is occurring in the upper tablelands outside of the regulated area, so therefore they don't have any concerns with the proposal. I do want to note that after this report was submitted, I did receive comments from CN pertaining to the proposed subdivision and proposed condominium. Their comments are primarily focused on the proposed subdivision. I just kind of, there's a lot of comments, as you can see from the comments that were circulated to you. I will know, however, a lot of these requests that they have made will be addressed either through the subdivision agreement at the time of issuance of a building permit, as the building official is been made aware of this, as well as has been addressed through the noise and vibration studies. And I do want to note that CN has been provided the stormwater management reports as well as the noise vibration reports. And they've indicated they've received them and they're reviewing them and would be providing comments on to Elgin County, which is the approval authority for the subdivisions. But they are aware of that and have the necessary reports. I also want to take note that after my report was submitted, I did receive comments from a neighboring property owner. I've provided all of you a copy of the comments. The person is Lana O'Neill. I'll read the letter out for everyone's benefit. It says, "Good evening, Heather. I'm inquiring about the upcoming public meeting March 1st regarding the new subdivision behind Willow/Hawthorne. We have received 2 notices, and the 2 notices that this individual would have received was a notice of application, which is a requirement under the Planning Act, as well as the notice of public meeting for the zoning bylaw amendment. It says here both show site maps, but the detail cannot be read as the print is so small. Is there a way to get these draft maps emailed to us so we can understand them? Yes, I did provide a PDF, an email through the PDF drawings so that this individual could look at them at their computer at a larger scale. The next question is Willow going to be the only access to this new subdivision? There is concern that the traffic in our little area will increase, especially during construction, and there are many children that play in the roads here. Yes, Willow Drive will be the only access in and out of this subdivision. There is a proposal for a new road within the subdivision, but in terms of gaining access out to Elm Street, Willow Drive is the only access. I do want to note that there was a traffic impact assessment prepared for the subdivision as well as the condominium. And the recommendations out of that report indicated that there was not a need for an additional access, that the current access, Willow Drive coming off of Elm Street, is able to accommodate the increase in traffic volumes. The next question that was identified was, what will the tallest building be in the subdivision? They've kind of put in brackets 2-story with a question mark. Yes, that is correct. That would be the tallest structure for a dwelling would be 2-story. The next question, the sound carries in our little area. We can hear everything that is held outdoors at the arena. Is there a plan to plant more trees, et cetera, to help with the noise that might generate from the new subdivision? I can state that we will, within the subdivision agreement, the town will be requesting for trees to be planted in the municipal boulevards. However, in terms of any more, I know the condominium has plans within their drawings. I've seen them for landscaping. Beyond that, I really don't have much ability to ask for trees on private property. And perhaps Darren Lyle, who is the engineer for CJDL, who's the agent on the file, could speak to that throughout, either during this public meeting or when we discuss the subdivision and condominium. So those were the questions that were posed to us. I've responded to the individual through email. Recommendation. It is the planning staff's opinion that the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is consistent with the provincial policy statement and it conforms to the county's official plan and the town's official plan. Recommends that the request for the zoning bylaw amendment be approved, subject to no new concerns or issues being raised at tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Heather. The next item, the committee will have a chance to ask questions. The next item is the applicant or agent present? If so, do you wish to speak to the application? Anyone here? You come up to the microphone and state your name. Thank you.
Your Worship and honorable members of council, thank you for the opportunity to make a few comments. My name is Tom Luby, and I'm one of the owners of Performance Communities Realty, Inc., better known as Hayho Homes. So I own that company together with my brothers-in-law, Will and Joe Hayho. And we've been building homes and developing residential communities in Elgin County for the last 30-plus years. While this is our first development in the town of Aylmer, we have built homes over the years in Aylmer, and we're excited to offer a mix of housing types in this new community, which we're calling Willow Run. I want to take this opportunity to thank the town staff. We've worked with some of your staff. They've been extremely professional and excellent to deal with, so just wanted to pass that on and say thank you. I also wanted to say that we consider ourselves community builders, and we're excited to collaborate with you on expanding. One of the things that we're excited about for this community is expanding the trail network. So if you notice on the draft plan, the green shaded area at the bottom, part of it is actually in Malahide, but it's within our ownership, and it's our intent to convey those valley lands all to the town as recreation, passive recreation usage. And the area calc for open space and parklands is actually almost 50% of the entire parcel. So I think that's pretty exciting, and it's a great link, so it connects with the existing community park that you have to the, get my directions right, that would be to the east. And and it's a step closer to linking the trail system through to the East Elgin Community Complex. The park is Rotary Park, I think it's referred to, and I know that you all have been awarded I think it's called an Audubon certified sanctuary for that park, and so this is really, I think, an amazing opportunity to expand that to the west with a big chunk of, I think it's almost 10 hectares of additional parkland open space that can be used for passive use. And so that, I just wanted to introduce myself to you all and thank you for the opportunity and say that we look forward to working on an ongoing collaborative relationship with the town of Aylmer. I think Darren is here if you have techie engineering questions, because I'm an accountant, I'm not an engineer, so thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak to this application?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the only comments that we'd received from members of the public were addressed by the manager of planning in her report.
Thank you. Have you received any additional communications related to the application, Mr. Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, we have not.
Do you have any further comments from the manager of planning and development at this point? No? Do you have a question from Councillor Chapman?
Through you, Your Worship. Heather, you mentioned trees in the boulevard. In the past, when roads are redeveloped, the trees are removed from the boulevards, and it is mandatory that those trees be planted on the owner's property. So to say that you're going to plant trees in the boulevard and not impede on the owner's property is a contradiction of that. So I'd just like comment from that.
Okay, absolutely. So what you're referring to is lands that are already developed. So they're trees that are on someone's property where the building's already been constructed. We already know where the driveway is and the servicing. So if it's being removed from the boulevard, then the property owner has an opportunity to choose where to position it on the property. The problems we run into with, and perhaps Darren can speak to this a bit more from the engineering side and from his team side, is it's a bit challenging to know where exactly a homeowner is going to want a tree. It's kind of based on where the house is situated, the servicing, the driveways. And to require a tree would be requiring a condition for the subdivision. And in order for the developer to be able to meet the requirements of conditions to be able to obtain final approval, which allows them to register, they'd have to plant a tree on the property without having a house built, because you have to register a subdivision before you can get a building permit. So we're kind of putting a bit, I don't know what's the word, it's like the cart before the horse. We kind of need to know where everything is situated on a property before we can plant a tree. Whereas with the example you gave, that's an already established home on the property. We already know where the house is, the driveway, the utilities, et cetera.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? Councillor Rosier?
Just for Heather, can you clarify boulevard for me? Because when you say boulevard, and I think boulevard, I think like in the center, like of a circle, like where the road turns, or are you talking about the parcel of land between the road and then the sidewalk? Like, what are you talking about there? Sorry.
We're actually talking about both. So boulevard is basically the municipal lands, so
Okay.
wherever the municipality owns.
Okay.
So in some subdivisions, they have the actual, like, the islands, kind of, the roadway is wide enough, they have islands. So you have plantings there, but then you also have municipally owned lands as well.
Thank you for that comment. Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you, Worship. I think it's exciting to have Hay-Ho Homes as part of the development community of the town of Elmer. I just have a comment on not dealing with the zoning bylaw itself, and that says Willow Drive is the, or Willow Run is the only access to the, Willow Drive is the only access to this development. Would it be prudent to reduce the 50-kilometer speed limit during the construction period to something less? Because it is a well-established neighborhood, relative, or medium density on the north side, and single-family dwellings on the south side, and completely developed, I think it's reasonable to reduce the speed limit during the construction. Again, it's not part of the zoning bylaw, just something we should do as development begins.
Okay. Absolutely. Yes, if that is council's desires to have that, staff can implement that through a subdivision agreement and have it as a requirement during construction.
Okay, so we can do that later as the development goes on. Right?
Okay, that would be fine.
Councillor Oslach?
Yes, your worship. I'm, the trail extension from Rotary Park to the complex, been at work for the last 10 years, 12 years. I look forward to that. It will be a great access, great access to the town of Elmer, and additional parklands.
Good. Thank you very much, Councillor. As you probably know, I've, certainly in favor of this for many years. Would be glad to see that happen. Any other questions? Okay, with no further discussion, we can adjourn the public hearing. The recommendation.
That council do now close this public meeting at 7:23 PM and reconvenes the meeting of council.
Mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor Desrosiers, seconded by Councillor Rahi. Remember, this motion is just moving back into council. It's not dealing with the resolution. All right, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So we can, now we can adjourn the public hearing and council consider the action on the report.
That the council of the town of Elmer receives report Plan 823 regarding planning evaluation report application for zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 0522, part of Lot 81, concession north of Talbot Road East, town of Elmer, formerly the township of Malahide. And further, that council of the town of Elmer approves the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 0523 in accordance with bylaw 1223 and provides first and second readings to the bylaw 1223 at the bylaw portion of the agenda.
All right, you've heard the resolution. A mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor Van Ray, seconded by Deputy Mayor Barber. Discussion on this resolution. Anything further? All right, seeing nothing further, all in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Now we're back to the council agenda. You're in item 6.2, I believe, right? Okay, so we have a resolution.
That council of the town of Elmer receives report Plan 923 regarding planning evaluation report applications for draft plan of subdivision 34T AY 22001 and draft plan of condominium 34CD AY 2202, part of Lot 81, concession north of Talbot Road East, town of Elmer, former township of Malahide. And that council of the town of Elmer recommends approval for application for draft plan subdivision to the approval authority, the county of Elgin, with the recommended conditions as included in Appendix 1 of the report Plan 923. And further, that council of the town of Elmer recommends approval for draft plan of condominium 34CD AY 2202 to the approval authority of the county of Elgin with the recommended conditions as included in Appendix 2 to the report Plan 923.
All right, you've heard the resolution. Can we have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Oslash, seconded by Councillor Desrosiers. Heather, you have a report?
Yes, I do, Your Worship, thank you. The purpose and effect of the applications for the draft plan of subdivision proposes, as shown on Figure 2 in my report, to create 55 residential lots for single detached dwellings, 16 units for semi-detached dwellings, 70 row townhouse units. Also proposes to create a block for medium-density residential, as well as a servicing walkway, and this is for the proposed plan of condominium, which would be a vacant land condominium. As well, the subdivision will also create a proposed municipal street, which will be named Hemlock Drive. We'll also create a walkway and servicing block within the subdivision, as well as a reserve at the western end of Willow Drive, a stormwater management area, an open space park area, sanitary pumping station. I do want to delete the archaeological site, and I will give an update on that in my report. So that will not be created. And lastly, the turnaround, the temporary road turnaround. The purpose and effect of the application for the draft plan of condominium is to create 44 vacant land condominium townhouse units within what is being proposed as Block 77 in the draft plan of subdivision. And within that plan of condominium, there will be associated common element areas containing landscape areas, internal roadways, and visitor parking. The proposed units are intended to be developed in the form of townhouse dwelling units, with each dwelling unit located on an individual condominium lot. The proposed vacant land condominium development would be fully serviced with 2 accesses from Willow Drive. So Figure 1 just kind of shows the location of the area. Figure 2 shows the draft plan of subdivision. Figure 3 shows the proposed draft plan of condominium. Before we can get to a public meeting for these, for a subdivision and condominium, there's a significant amount of reports and studies that are required to support these kind of applications, and I've listed them within the report. Essentially, planning justification report, functional servicing report, a design brief for the sanitary sewage pumping station to facilitate the development, preliminary stormwater management report, rail noise and vibration and land use compatibility report, scoped environmental impact study, geotechnical engineering report, traffic impact assessment, and stage 1 and stage 2 archaeological assessments. In terms of planning policy review, in terms of the provincial policy statement, as you can see, I spent a lot of time on that because this is, there's a lot of policies that apply from the provincial policy statement. Essentially, all of the reports that were prepared for these applications kind of speak to these policies as you see within my report. I do want to note that the proposed draft plan of subdivision and draft plan of condominium is consistent with the provincial policy statement. And I think it's appropriate at this point to give an update regarding the archaeological site. We've had some new information provided to the town. Essentially, so as my report indicates, we have a municipal water line main running within what would have been identified as the buffer area around the archaeological site. We've received information from the agent's archaeologist who's consulted with the Ministry of Culture that we would not be able to do any work within that buffer area to maintain or repair our water main. Therefore, the agent is required and is moving to a stage 3 archaeological assessment, which, if I understand correctly, I believe they have to remove the artifacts that are found on the property. And I do want to note that the artifacts that were found were, I believe it's fragments of filaments, so basically of fragments of the tools. Perhaps Mr. Lyle could speak to that a bit further, but I believe it was fragments of the tools of Aboriginal groups is what was found on this site. So I do want to note that the, as I said, the proposed draft plan of subdivision and draft plan of condominium do meet all the policies of the provincial policy statement, and therefore they are consistent. Moving on to the County of Elgin official plan, review the applicable policies that apply, and the proposed draft plan of subdivision and draft plan of condominium conform to the county's official plan policies for these type of applications. Next, the Town of Aylmer official plan. I reviewed the applicable policies that apply with these applications. And I can confirm that the proposed draft plan of subdivision and draft plan of condominium conform to the town's official plan. In terms of the zoning bylaw, we've already chatted about that already in the public meeting regarding the zoning bylaw that we held the public meeting for. In terms of consultation, town staff and the town's appointed engineer, Burnside Engineering, have reviewed all of the submitted reports. Comments pertaining to the reports have been provided to the agent, and they've been incorporated into the most recent version of the plans that you see, as well as the reports. Town staff and the town's appointed engineer are satisfied that all of the remaining comments, mainly focus on the design of servicing and stormwater management, will be addressed prior to entering into a subdivision agreement and development agreement for these developments. Recommendation, it is the planning staff's opinion that the proposed draft plan of subdivision and draft plan of condominium are consistent with the provincial policy statement and conform to the County of Elgin official plan and the Town of Aylmer official plan. Recommendations is that council, the Town of Aylmer, receive the report Plan 09-23 regarding planning evaluation report, applications for draft plan of subdivision 34T-AY 22001, and draft plan of condominium 34CD-AY 2202, part of Lot 81, concession north of Talbot Road East, Town of Aylmer, and that the council, the Town of Aylmer, recommend approval for applications for draft plan of subdivision 34T-AY 22001 to the approval authority of the County of Elgin with the recommended conditions as included in Appendix 1 to this report. And lastly, that council, the Town of Aylmer, recommend approval for draft plan of condominium 34CD-AY 2202 to the approval authority of the County of Elgin with the recommended conditions as included in Appendix 2 to this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Harold. You've been busy, as council can appreciate. A lot of policies to meet here and a lot of information, so ask away. Any further questions of Heather? I think you must have nailed it, Heather. Nobody's asking any questions. Councillor Oslach.
Worship. Will the CN's concerns meet?
Sorry, I didn't quite, could you repeat that, please?
The CN's concerns, will the meet?
Well, yes, we have already addressed a lot of their concerns through the noise and vibration studies, as well as setbacks for the dwellings, as well as the proposed chain link fence that'll be required. And we'll also be working through, like, some of the other things they've asked for is to include a clause within the offers of purchase and sale agreements. That's something that the town isn't involved in. That's something that the developer is involved in. So yes, we are meeting CN's requests.
Councillor Desrosiers.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't know if I ask, probably Heather or maybe Andy, but the Block 84, the proposed park, what does the long-term responsibility of that park look like? Like, does the town take on that responsibility, or is it the developer owns it? Like, how does that work? Can someone just give a little lesson here?
Heather?
Once, so Block 84 will be, hold on, I'm gonna get my drawing up here. Block 84, once all of the trail has been constructed, the trail will be, it's my understanding the trail will be constructed by the developer. Once all of the work has been completed, the Block 84 will be transferred to the Town of Aylmer, and the town will be, Parks and Rec Department will be responsible for the maintenance of the trail as well as the cutting of the grass.
Go
May I
ahead.
ask one more follow-up
Sure.
question? and this might be far out that maybe we don't have an answer, but is there any long-term plans to put any play equipment in there? This is a fairly large development that's happening here. There's going to be a lot of families, there's going to be a lot of children. Is that something we think about now, or is that down the road?
It's probably going to be down the road. I think council can decide to do that once the park is ours.
Okay.
But Heather, you had a comment on this?
I was just going to say that we're currently working on our master parks and recreation plan that's identifying our parklands and our parkland needs and what type of parks that we require. So we intend to take a look at that once we get kind of a final version, which should be coming to council very shortly. And then from there, we can, once we acquire these lands, we can kind of look at where does these lands fit into our master parks plan.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, now, Councillor Oslach.
Your worship, doesn't the, from Rotary Park to the complex, these lands fall under the Audubon Society?
I'm sorry?
The Audubon Society, Heritage.
I don't know.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe I looked into that about a year ago, so I might not be 100% accurate, but I don't know if that status is actually active any longer. I do know it was at one point, but I think it's something that you have to continue to register for every couple years, and I believe that's lapsed.
Councillor Van Raes.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We talked about Block 84 being transferred to the town of Elmer. What about Block 85? What happens with that? Because that's technically Township of Malahide.
Heather?
So Block 85 will remain within the Township of Malahide because we cannot bring those lands into the town without a formal annexation process.
So with,
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Just to clarify, I think that while the lands are within the municipality of Malahide, the ownership is ours, and it's our intention to convey that block to the town of Aylmer. So the town of Aylmer would own land within the township of Malahide. I believe that's correct.
follow up?
Okay, thank you for that.
My apologies, that is correct. Yes, it is part of the stormwater management facility, and it all needs to be contained within the same ownership. So yes, we will own land within the township. It's just that we can't transfer the lands out of Malahide into the town.
But we own it, as the gentleman said, yeah. Councillor Van Raes? Yeah.
Through you again, Mr.
follow-up?
Mayor. So that, when our Parks and Rec department take over that block, then they would, no issues with them taking over, or taking care of Block 85 as well? Because it'll be under our ownership. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Chapman?
Through you, your worship. It may be on here, but I can't see it. Are there plans for sidewalks in this subdivision?
Sidewalks become a detail that we figure we look at when we get to the subdivision agreements and we receive more engineering, kind of more scaled engineering drawings. We will have, yes, but there will be sidewalks within this development.
Because it's not mentioned.
It's just, yeah,
anywhere, so
we don't show that level of detail on the subdivision plans. It will be shown in the engineering drawings that will form part of the subdivision agreement.
Perfect.
Thank you for
Thank
that.
you.
Councillor Oslach?
Yes, your worship. I suggest the Block 84 maintain its wilderness status for bird watching and animal, and trees and shrubs and everything else. It's nice to have a natural area in the town of Elm.
Well, this is a large natural area.
Yep.
Anything else? Seeing nothing, I will call the question on the resolution. 5 minutes to read it. All those in favor? Any opposed? No, none opposed. Thank you. It's carried. Thank you. Item 7, the adoption of council and committee minutes. The number of minutes to approve.
That council approves the following minutes regular meeting of council held on February the 15th, 2023.
Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councilor Van Rays, seconded by Councilor Chapman. Questions on that? Comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? As carried. Thank you. 7.2, minutes to receive. Josh?
That council receives the following minutes. East Elgin Community Complex Board held on February the 21st, 2023. Meeting of Elgin County Council held on January 25th, 2023. And meeting of the Elmer Police Services Board held on January the 10th, 2023.
Mover and a seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Barber, seconded by Councilor Desrosiers. All those in favor? And it's carried. Consent agenda, there is none. Action items, 9.1. This is the notice of motion one that Councilor Van Rays has put forward. Can you read the resolution, please?
Whereas there are currently multiple pedestrian crossovers, or PXOs, of varying classifications within the town of Elmer downtown core and surrounding area. And whereas the pedestrian crosswalk located in the proximity of King Street and Talbot Street East on Highway 3 does not currently include similar safety features to other pedestrian crossovers in the town of Elmer, now therefore be it resolved that staff be directed to prepare a future report outlining the feasibility of implementing an electronic pedestrian crossover in the general proximity of King Street and Talbot Street East for future council discussion and consideration.
Mover and a seconder, and moved by Councilor Van Rays, seconded by Councilor Oslach. Okay. Resolutions on the floor, comment, questions? Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question. This particular resolution relates to a full-blown pedestrian crosswalk. Would the staff report be all-encompassing to review any potential pedestrian crossing?
I believe so. I mean, is there any objection to that, Councilor Van Rays?
No, through you, Mr. Mayor. When I brought this motion forward, my thought was just looking at what, if there's a better solution for crosswalk or crossing service at that point, or eliminate it altogether if that's an option. Even today, there's a lot, I spend a lot of time downtown and I see a lot of people use that, and it's difficult to get across the way it's positioned. Today, actually, when I was walking, I saw a lady try to cross and the traffic backs up. Usually they don't block the intersection sometimes, or the crosswalk. Sometimes they do. You have to go out and basically peek your head around cars to try to get across. And she waited. Luckily, the vehicle stopped and she was able to cross. I've seen multiple people almost get hit. I've almost been hit crossing that. So I'm just thinking, let's look at what options are available, which could be if it's putting lights in there, if it's changing parking spaces, or if it's eliminating altogether and you have to walk down to the actual crosswalk, or the lights. I think I would be in favor of leaving it there and improving it, because there's a lot of traffic in that area. And I see people come out of businesses and want to get around to another business, and the quickest way is through that crosswalk. So, but looking at all options would.
Okay, so staff be directed to look at all options. Now, the crosswalk or the painted lines on the road are to the west of King Street. Are you looking at moving it to the east of King Street as one solution, or, staff, I guess, will look at that as well. Let's see where the best place is for that kind of crosswalk. All right. Councillor Chapman.
Through your worship, it's just a question. There's also a similar crosswalk at the corner here of Centennial. So while we're looking at that one, should we not be looking at the other one? If it's a matter of whether it should have signals or whether the line should be removed. If you're going to look at one, would it not be feasible to do both at the same time?
Josh,
Through you, Your Worship, and to Councillor Chapman, in response to Councillor Van Rays' notice of motion, staff intend to provide a background report on the Ontario Traffic Manual Book 15 So our Director of Infrastructure, Terry, is going to provide a comprehensive analysis of all of the existing crosswalks and their classifications within the town. And he'll also explore some of the alternatives to pedestrian crossing treatments, as they're referred to by the province in that legislation. So we'll look at, the options such as no parking signage, just alternative solutions to crosswalks as well.
Okay.
So we'll cover all of them, and from that point, I expect that council may identify specific projects.
Good point. Deputy Mayor Barber.
Would courtesy crosswalks be included in that survey? Okay.
Anything else? Councillor Oslach.
Yes, sure. So, the crosswalk on Queen and Talbot is not used very much anymore with the closing of the 7-Eleven. I would suggest moving that crosswalk up to King and Talbot. Maybe.
Perhaps that'll be looked at as well, when staff provides a report, whether or not that's necessary to do at this point, but.
Because King and Talbot is used more often than Queen and Talbot.
Okay. Mr. Chapman.
Just a comment to Arthur. It's not just people going to the store that use that crosswalk, it's the children coming from the homes behind the St. Paul's Church. So it is used for children crossing to go to Assumption School and McGregor School. So it's a safety issue for children.
And just to follow up to Councillor Chapman's comments, the churches at the church at the corner and also the funeral home, if there is an event, it's a popular crosswalk for people to get to their parking spots.
Okay.
But I'm sure that's going to be part of the survey too.
Anything else? Good discussion. Thank you very much. I will call the question on the resolution. All those in favor? As carried. Thank you. Next one is 9.2, Director of Corporate Services, dealing with procurement policy.
That report, Clerk 1323, entitled Procurement or Purchasing Policy Bylaw Update. Process overview, we received for information.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Rahi and Councillor Van Raes. All right, discussion? All right. So, call the question. All those in favor? Yes, carried. Very good. 9.3, report by the CAO on East Elgin Community Complex. You have a resolution?
That report, CAO 1523, entitled Response EECC Board Meeting, February 21st, 2023, be received for information, and that Elmer Council authorizes the capital expenditure related to an ice resurfacer as approved by the EECC Board at their meeting on February 21st, 2023, and as outlined in the report Operations 423, and that Elmer Council authorized the capital expenditure for repairs to the EECC desiccant unit with an upset limit of $22,500, and further that council provide an exemption to the town's procurement policy to grant staff the ability to select a vendor for the time-sensitive repairs that is agreeable to the township of Malahide.
Okay, mover and seconder, Councillor Van Rahi, sorry, and Councillor Chapman. Andy, you have a report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very briefly, just this afternoon before today's meeting, the EECC staff were able to get me the 3 quotations. So we anticipate that the cost on this project will likely be less than $45,000 at this point. One of the quotations that we previously had actually expired, so when we went back, the cost went lower. So hopefully this will impress our partners, and they'll be eager to get somebody on this desiccant unit repair. and it could be around $36,000 rather than 45. So we're hopeful that sending those quotations through, and obviously this council will be copied on those quotations under confidential cover, and we'll send them on to Malahide Council so that we can get this work done quickly.
Good. $9,000 less right there. Councillor Van Raes.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, did they happen to give timelines?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so the timelines for the two lowest are between 8 to 10 weeks, so there's no, and the two lowest are relatively close, so we're agreeable if Malahide sees that the lowest isn't the best one, it won't have too much impact on us.
Thank you.
Councillor Desrosiers.
Thank you, Your Worship. Was there any changes in the quotes as far as warranting the work? Like, I know the first quote that we got that was higher, any work that was done wasn't guaranteed due to the age and condition of the machine. Have these new quotes given us any better warranty or any indication of, you know, the repair being long-term or being just better?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, so none of the vendors would warranty it, but they, I'd suggest, from talking to Tom after the last meeting, he said in conversation with the first vendor that generally these types of repairs would be expected to last from 5 to 10 years. So although they won't warranty it, it certainly, we'd be surprised if it broke down in a short term.
Any other question? Just a point of clarification, what is meant by an upset limit of $22,500?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so that would be the total amount of funding that was based on the $45,000, or half of the $45,000 suggested at the EECC meeting. So that would be how much money staff could expend before we'd have to come back to council.
That's our portion of the cost, basically, when you were talking the 45. Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? As carried, thank you very much. Integrity Commissioner Services, Director of Corporate Services, Josh.
That report, Clerk 1423, entitled Integrity Commissioner Services Contract Update, be received for information, and that council directs staff to solicit 3 quotes for Integrity Commissioner Services in accordance with the relevant town procurement policies.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Chapman and Deputy Mayor Barber. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor is carried. Thank you. Next item is the East Elgin Community Complex Ad Hoc Governance Committee terms. Josh.
That report, Clerk 1523, entitled East Elgin Community Complex Ad Hoc Governance Committee Terms of Reference and Appointments, be received for information, and that council approves the EECC Ad Hoc Governance Committee Terms of Reference as approved by the EECC Board of Management on February the 21st, 2023. And further, that council endorses the appointment of Councillor Chapman and Councillor DesRosiers as the town appointments to the EECC Ad Hoc Governance Committee. And further, that council considers giving 3 readings to the bylaw amending the appointment bylaw 3822 to reflect those appointments.
This is your report, Josh? Go ahead.
Yes.
First, mover and seconder, Councillor Desrosiers and Councillor Chapman.
Certainly, through you, Your Worship. This is really a matter of housekeeping as follow-up to some of the discussion that we had at the board meeting on February the 21st, 2023. At that meeting, the board approved the terms of reference for an ad hoc governance committee, and really the purpose of this report is just to codify that at the town. So we'll be both officially endorsing that terms of reference as approved by the board, and then secondly, endorsing the appointment of our members of council, Councillor Chapman and Councillor DesRosiers, which were recommended by Mayor Cookett.
Discussion? Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you, Worship. This particular committee's mandate will effectively, or could effectively, define the future of the how the complex operates. For years, it's been a source of frustration to the community, to the respective councils, in order to get to being an efficient state. And it's my hope, and I'm sure the members of council, that another type of structure be envisioned, and that the politics of the complex be taken out of the administration of the complex. I wish you folks the best. You've got your work cut out for you, but I'm sure you'll are up to the task.
Thank you very much for that comment, Deputy Mayor. Certainly, I'd like to stress that the politics of the complex be taken out of this equation. And as you know, you and I and Arthur were part of the board for a long time in the past. And I'm on record stating that the way the board is composed right now is, to be the kindest to it, it's silly. We need a change here, so I can echo Deputy Mayor's comments about you have a task ahead of you, and so thank you for taking this on. Any other question? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's carried, thank you. The next item deals, where are we? Number 9.6, the Director of Corporate Services. Expenditure approval, Josh.
That report, Clerk 1723, entitled EECC Canada Day 2023 Expenditure Approval, be received for information, and that council approves the allocation of $10,000 for the EECC to host 2023 Canada Day celebrations as recommended by the EECC Board Resolution 1323. And I should specify, given the nature of the relationship between Elmer and Malahide, Elmer's contribution would be $5,000. And,
Mover and seconder, Councillor Chapman and Councillor Roselach. Discussion? Councillor Chapman.
Through you, Your Honor, just a comment. We haven't had a celebration for quite some time, and I'm very happy to see that this is going to be a possibility, and I think that it will be a good event for our entire
Ditto, yeah. Any other comment? Seeing none, all those in favor? Yes, carried. Item 9.7, crossing guard assistance. Thank you, Mr. Van Reyser. You don't need to go outside, though. It's kind of cold out there. Josh.
that report, Clerk 1623, entitled School Crossing Guard Assistance Service Delivery Option, be received for information, in that council authorizes staff to negotiate a short-term vendor agreement with Inclusive Communities Consulting and Life Skills for crossing guard and assistance services, it being noted that the final agreement shall be presented for future consideration by bylaw, and further that council endorses the attachment A outlining crossing guard guidelines.
Mover and seconder, Deputy Mayor Barber, seconder, Councillor Desrosiers. Discussion? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. I think this is a viable option for this type of service delivery, and it's certainly cost-effective. The folks that will be providing the service will be learning a life skill, and as well as providing that safety of that crossing. So I think it's a good idea, and it's worth giving it a shot.
Councillor Rahi.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I second what you say, as long as the person or people that are there are competent to take care of the children's safety when they're doing the job. So as long as they, adhere to the rules that they're supposed to, then it's definitely a cost-effective way to do it, as long as they're competent enough to take care of the job in the way that it's supposed to.
Josh.
And just to, through you, Mr. Mayor, and just to build on Councillor Rahe's comment, We have been advised by Mr. Van Rays that, you know, at any given time, a support staff would ultimately be the steward of the crosswalk. So we expect that there would be clientele there learning those important life skills and getting that experience. But it, you know, that extra level of comfort was added to staff for delivering that program, and that a support worker would always be there.
Yeah, I would hope that.
Yeah.
But no
Certainly.
disrespect to anybody,
Yep.
but even the support worker, hopefully they are competent enough to at least know what is going on and what
For
is
sure.
supposed to happen.
Councillor Chapman.
Through you, Your Worship. Just a question. The liability, if something were to happen, does it fall on the town or does it fall on the service provider?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and to Councillor Chapman. So throughout our preliminary discussions, we did advise the potential vendor that it would be their obligation to maintain their own insurance policy in the amount of $15 million or greater, naming the town as additionally insured. And that recommendation was made on our part based on advice that we received from our town insurers. So, you know, in the unfortunate event that a claim ever arose, the vendor's insurance would be implicated first and in advance of the town's insurance. Yeah.
Okay, anything else? All those in favor? That is carried, thank you. Maybe we can let Mr. Van Raes back. Okay, new business and matters of urgency. The reading of bylaws and proceedings thereon. Josh.
That council gives first and second reading to the bylaw 1223, which is a bylaw to amend bylaw 5799, being the zoning bylaw of the town of Elmer, and this is respecting the aforementioned Willow Run subdivision.
Okay. Mover and seconder. Councillor Rahier and Councillor Desrosiers. Any discussion on this? We've had considerable during the meeting. All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. Item 11.3, 3 readings to signing of an agreement. Josh?
That council gives 3 readings to and approves the following: bylaw 1323, being a bylaw to authorize the signing of an agreement between the corporation of the town of Elmer and Earth Pro Development Corporation for pre-servicing the Centennial Estates subdivision. Bylaw 1423, being a bylaw to authorize the signing of an agreement between the corporation of the town of Elmer and WT Infrastructure Solutions Incorporated for the provision of consulting engineering services for the town of Elmer lagoon upgrades. And finally, bylaw 1523, being a bylaw to make the necessary council and citizen appointments to committees and boards. And finally, bylaw 1623, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at the regular council meeting held on February the 15th, 2023.
Mover and seconder for these 4 bylaws, Councillor Oslak and Councillor Chapman. Questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's carried, thank you. Are there any inquiries by members? After last meeting, people are afraid to make inquiries about certain things. Statement of, on committee reports. Councillor Oslak.
Yes, Your Worship. I was out to the Elmer Wildlife Center today, and the swans are back. The swans are back. I've seen several hundred of them.
That's wonderful. I hope they check the weather for tomorrow. Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you, Worship. Couple of things. Several members of council were at the Railway 150 event last week. Actually, a good crowd turned out between politicians and members of the public and the museum board. It was good to see. Yesterday was the Catfish Creek Conservation Authority annual meeting, and on behalf of council, I presented greetings to the people in presence. And a couple of things. Elgin Area Water and the primary board and the secondary, Elmer Secondary Board, both water quality reports. There are no areas of concern. Very quickly, The primary board is working on 3 environmental objectives, and they are to reduce hydro cost, to reduce chemical cost, and to reduce the residual, which is the remnants from water purification, rather than putting it back into the lake untreated. And on the electrical generation, we're well on our way to meeting the objectives for efficiency. Strangely, more hydro is required to treat the water in the wintertime than in the summertime, for 2 reasons. The volumes are down, but the cost of electricity is higher because it has to run longer because of the density of the water. It takes more purification. And in the summertime, you're running the pumps longer, which is like operating at peak hours in your household. Chemicals are another issue. It's challenging because a lot of them come from the States, and the price fluctuations are difficult to control. As far as the residual goes, talked about that briefly. $100 million plant is now in full operation to treat the residual material, and we're meeting our objectives on that. And just very quickly, Arthur mentioned about the birds. The Water Board worked out an agreement with Birds Canada to place a transmitter on our communication tower so that migratory birds could be tracked as they go back and forth on their patterns. So, and that was done at minimal cost to Birds Canada. If it's interesting to council.
Very interesting. Thank you for that report. And we're fortunate to have one of the senior experts on these 2 water boards. Pete's been there for 10 years, must be 10 years by now that you've been on.
10 years.
13 years?
10.
10, okay, 10 years. So, good work, thank you. Anything else? Anything else? Report of the mayor, I don't have a lot to report. I'm sorry I missed the railway reunion, because I would have been happy to pump that hand cart and take it somewhere. But there was county council yesterday, and county council, as I reported earlier, the tax rate was supposed to be 2.07. However, we had to revise that, and now the current tax rate for county council is 3.5%. Hopefully, we're finished, but there were long discussion at county council about the reasons for this, and mainly the reasons we're looking at our 10-year plan, and that we didn't want to defer everything to next year or the year after. So we've had to add some tax income to this year's. Okay. Are there any notices of motion? Yeah. We go to meeting closed to the public. We have a motion?
That council moves into a meeting closed to the public at 8:09 PM to discuss the following matters. We have one this evening, it's report CAO 1623 entitled Adjustment Summer Student Compensation, and that item's closed to the public pursuant to section 239(2)D of the Municipal Act, as subject matters pertain to labor relations or employee negotiations.
Over seconder. Moved by Councillor Van Rey, seconded by Councillor Rosier. All those in favor? And carries. So take a brief recess before we move into closed session. Okay, Josh, I have a resolution.
That council rise from the meeting closed to the public at 8:28 PM and reports the following: that the report CAO 1623 entitled Adjustment Summer Student Compensation be received for information, and further that council gave direction to the chief administrative officer.
Mover and seconder. Moved by Counselor Van Ray, seconded by Deputy Mayor Barber. All those in favor? Is carried. So now we come to adjournment. We have something else? Yeah, adjourn.
That council do now adjourn at 8:28 PM.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Chapman and Counselor Desrosiers, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Good discussion tonight.